am live. I'm reading out of Eyes of Horus. I am here in part 4 of this book, which is a far memory from Joan Marshall Grants. She was a seer. She lived until 1989, and she wrote 7 books about her own far memories. This one is her life as Ra-Up. He is an heir to the kingdom or to the nomarch of the ORYX. And we are here in chapter 4 of part 4, the ORYX necklace. ORYX is like an antelope. When I woke next morning, it was long after dawn. For a moment I thought I had been dreaming of Mary, and wondered why I was not reluctant to return to my body. Mary. How did I know her name was Mary? The glory of memory poured down on me. We were no longer hidden from each other by the mist of the river. She was here, in the royal city. Yesterday I had seen her, heard her voice, known that although she might not be ready to declare it, she had recognized the link between us. I shouted for Sebek, and he came through the curtained doorway. Sebek, I found her. I knew she wasn't the daughter of the hare. Found who? He interrupted impatiently, and without waiting for an answer went on. We went to the house of the keeper of the gold seal, the most important chance we've had since we came here to meet people of whom the watchers must know. And what did you do? Except for a few remarks to a soldier, and even he found you so dull he left you as soon as the decency permitted, you sat by yourself and made no effort to speak to anybody. And I had to stand with the servants and watch you waste your opportunities. If the steward of the household had not opened a jar for the cupbearer so that we had the chance to drink wine as well as pouring it for our betters, I should not have been able to get even a few poor gleanings of what might have been a plentiful harvest. And when I returned to the banqueting hall, it was to find you had already left, so I hurried home, to be told by Duckleon you had given orders not to be disturbed. I was far too happy to be annoyed by his complaints. Stop grumbling, you dull old man, and listen. Is it of so little interest that I can tell you the name of the woman who is to be the wife of your future nomarch? You say I wasted our opportunities, yet if you had the wit to realize it, you would know that I've found she who one day will rule the ORYX. You must still be dreaming, far for a more unlikely story I never heard. You never spoke to a woman the whole time we were there, though I suppose even you had to find a few words of courtesy for the daughter of the host. And those few words were enough. Did I forget to tell you the name of she whom I am speaking is Mary Ososis, and that the man on whom I shall bestow the great honor of being grandfather to my heir is the gold seal under Pharaoh? I laughed at his blank astonishment. So much for you people who like to scoff at dreams. You thought that if I would only choose a little concubine, as once you so solemnly advised me to do, I should cease looking for a woman who existed only in my imagination. Even Kias thought that if I ever found her, she would turn out to be the daughter of a fisherman or some other rank, which would cause father to sigh with disapproval. It is not suitable for a servant to comment on the choice made by his master, said Sebek, and then added even more dubiously, I expect when you're fully awake, you will find this only another of your dreams. Though, of course, if you do marry the daughter of Ramois, I shall be the first to rejoice at your good fortune. Why, wait, rejoice now, Sebek, never postpone rejoicing. Sometimes rejoicing is the mother of disappointment. Sometimes you remind me of the story of Rodan, the story Rodan used to tell us when we were children, of the quail chick who starved because it dared not eat the worms which it saw its brother eating, after the wild duck had told it that worms were baby sand snakes. I'm very hungry. Go and fetch me honey and new bread and 2 duck eggs. And a melon too, if you can find one. And hurry, oh father of disapproval, if your unquiet belly is not too heavy for your withered shanks." At which insult he recovered his amiability and tried on me a new wrestling throw he had been practicing the day before, and would have thrown me over his shoulder had I not known a counter to bring him down. While he went to fetch the food, I took the ORYX necklace from the box which Neku had designed. I could give it to her today, her anniversary of the first breath, on which her friends would bring tributes of flowers as a sign of their affection. I decided to go to her house in the evening, so as not to squander the joy of anticipation. I replaced the necklace in its wrapping of green linen. The lid of the box showed a girl stooping to put a garland of flowers round the neck of the ORYX, which stood beside her with its head lowered in humble devotion. Surely it would remind her of the happiness we had found beyond the river. I would hide the gift amongst flowers, which I would choose myself, even if I had to search every corner of the daily market held outside the south gate. As I entered the courtyard of the house of Ramois, I saw the soldier with whom I had sat the night before. He looked away and hurried his pace, afraid I might recognize him and seek to impose the further boredom of my company. Mary was in the garden between the house and the river. Her dress was flax blue, and the fillet which bound her hair had little flowers of pink quartz among amethyst leaves. She was holding court among a crowd of friends, and already the stone bench beside her was piled high with the flowers they had brought. I hoped that if I contrived to be the last to greet her, she would find a way for us to be alone, even if it were only for a moment. I had hidden the box among sprays of tuberose and stephanotis in a flat basket of green rushes. She smiled when she saw me, but then she had smiled at all the others. She took the basket and set it down a little apart from the rest. At first she did not see the box, and as I noticed that no one else had brought her a second gift, I realized I must have broken another rule of etiquette, and wondered if she would think it presumptuous. Then she saw it, and with a little cry of pleasure took out the necklace. "Oh, Ra'ab Hotep, 1,000 thanks must travel to your father for such a splendid gift to the daughter of his friend." I took my cue and said, "He told me to give it to you on your anniversary. That is why I did not bring it to you when I first arrived in the royal city. Had you done so, I should have worn it last night, for I have no other half so beautiful." She held it out for the others to see, and they crowded forward to look at it. "Is it not true what I say? None of you has a necklace so rare in design as this. And look at the box. I should keep my malachite and eye paint in it, that they may learn of the craftsman who made those clear, swift lines, and so improved the drawing of my eyebrows." I lingered until all the guests had gone, and only the 4 girls who were there, her personal attendants, were still with us. Surely she would make some excuse to speak to me alone. But either she thought it unwise or did not choose to do so. I wished the others were flies, so that I might brush them away, or leopards which I could kill to show my devotion. At last I could think of no excuse to linger, and wondering desperately how soon I could make occasion to see her again, I made my farewell, as though referring to a matter already arranged between us, which to my joy I realized was for the benefit of those who were listening. She said, "My father instructed me to tell you that when you come tomorrow to deliver those messages for his private ears, which you bring from the ORYX, he will not await you here, but at his island pavilion. He often finds it more restful to work there, and as your own boatman may have difficulty in finding it, one of ours will wait for you at the 3rd landing stage. He also told me to tell you that if he is detained on a matter of great urgency, you may trust me to repeat faithfully all the messages your father has sent to mine. If the minutes which kept plodding so slowly past had been slaves in the stone quarries, they would have found their overseer cruel in his impatience to hurry them. But at last it was time for me to go to the 3rd landing stage. The boat which Mary sent to bring me to her had a brow shaped like a swan, and I sat behind the 2 rowers on a raised platform. The island was in mid-river, and as I drew nearer, I saw that flowering shrubs came down to the water's edge. A flight of stone steps led up the steep bank from the wooden landing stage, but they were deserted. The steersman made fast and then told me that if I followed the path at the top of the steps, I would come to the pavilion. The path wound through thickets of dense shade. I had a sense of unreality in the green stillness, as though I might see the narrow hoof prints of an ORYX on the powdered limestone I was treading. I came to an open, grassy space, and half expected to see Mary running towards me, with hands outstretched, as she had greeted me in our dreams, no longer pretending, even though we both knew it for pretense, that we were strangers. In a moment I should see her alone, without need for concealment. Surely we should be alone? I heard the voices of several women, and disappointment was sharper than a thorn. The front of the little wooden pavilion was shaded by an awning painted in yellow and white. Under this was a couch whose side were ebony Hathor cows with ivory horns, and on it lay Mary, laughing at something one of the 4 girls who were grouped around her must have just said. Sebek had told me the girls were beautiful, but I did not notice them. The stars are not visible when the sun is in the sky. Mary greeted me as she had done before, with a smiling curtsy due to her father's guest, as yesterday I had seen her greet 100 others. Had she forgotten me, or was it only that for a little longer we must keep up the pretense? She asked me for news of the ORYX, but only as though it were this usage of conversation, and not as though the subject held special interest for her. Then she told one of the girls to fetch wine and honey cakes, but she did not fill my cup herself, as she would have done if I had been an intimate friend. She told another of the girls to sing to the harp, for which I was grateful, for it allowed me to look at her without having to think of trivial phrases to conceal my thoughts. She was wearing a wreath of green corn, and her hair was smooth and dark as the midnight river. Her dress was of finely pleated mist linen, and through it her body gleamed like moonflowers in the dusk. Her feet were beautiful as the morning, and I envied her scarlet sandals whose gold thongs might clasp them, while I must stay aloof. She was very still while she listened to the girls singing, the fan of heron's feather idle in her hand, a hand that was long and narrow, with gilded nails like almond kernels. Then I had to feign interest in the lid of a box that one of the others was inlaying with bitumen and pearl shell, and listen to yet another song, while all I longed to hear was Mary's voice. She sent for a board and gaming box and challenged me to play. When she leaned forward to move a piece, her perfume was so lively in my nostrils that it was difficult not to cry to her for mercy. Why did she delight to tease me? If she no longer loved me, surely she would have the charity to send me away. I pretended to myself that if I had known the greeting that awaited me, I should have sent Sebek in my place. She would not have noticed the difference, and he would have enjoyed himself. The last throw of the dice spared me the need to move pieces on a board. I stood up, searching for formal phrases of farewell to hide my heart. But before I spoke them, she dismissed the girls, saying that she would not need them until it was time to return home, and that they might go to the bathing place at the north of the island. She turned to me. My father has told me of matters of importance, which I am to discuss with the son of the ORYX. For a moment she laid her hand on my arm. There is a flowering tree here, which I do not think grows in your gnome. I wish you to tell me if your sister would find its perfume agreeable, if the unguents I'm sending to her were scented with it. Disappointment vanished, like the mist which used to hide her land from mine. She led me through another clearing which gave on a path like the one by which I had come to her, and when she reached a tree whose opening buds were vivid sparks among the dark leaves, she stretched up to pick a flower that was far more fully open than the rest. She turned and leaned back against the somber trunk. We were tranced in a web of stillness, and then, like the song of a silver string, I heard her say, "This tree does not grow beyond the other river, but we belong there." And I answered her, "We have belonged there since first you waited for me at the head of the avenue to take me to Anubis." She put her hands on my shoulder, then she was in my arms, and it seemed as though she had never left them. While we wandered hand in hand through the green shade, I asked her, "Why did you try to make me think you had forgotten me?" I had to be sure, though in my heart I never doubted you were the one for whom I have been waiting. It is 3 years since I knew I would meet you, though some of my dreams were not so clear as yours. I didn't remember your name, though you tell me I said I should, and I didn't know what you were going to look like. I was always looking for you, among guests that came to my father's house, and amongst soldiers, amongst everyone I met. And when I couldn't find you, I even searched the faces of rowers, and drew back the curtains of my litter in the streets in case I might glimpse you in the crowd. Okay, I'll stop this here, because it's quite a long chapter. And I'll finish it later. Bye-bye.